Welcome back, everyone. This is Ralph Larigo on the Patriot Station. We're continuing with this year's local elections. We have a number of people here in studio with regard to local elections. We're going to start with Christina Coyle-Lenz. So we heard from her before, but she's got a lot to tell us. So here's the situation. The legislature in Erie County is comprised of 11 legislators, 7 of which are Democrats and only 4 of which are conservative Republicans. We need to gain in that legislature. Only once in the last decade did the conservative Republicans have control. So Christina has a great opportunity here to be elected, especially with what's going on in Amherst and how Bob Davis is handling Amherst these days and the strong candidates that we have running in Amherst. And Christina is running hard. So, Christina, welcome back.
Thank you, Chairman Larigo.
So, again, I'm extremely impressed with your background. So you work at a local university. You have a Master of Science Leadership and Innovation. Tell me what that really is.
Well, so that's the program that I run at the local university. And the graduate degree in Leadership and Innovation trains leaders to understand who they are as leaders. Self-awareness is absolutely crucial. We also train leaders to understand that they're working on teams, they have to work across difference, and they have to work in complex systems. And so this is a 36 credit hour program that prepares leaders to step into the world in the most ambiguous of situations with the right tools so that they can effectively lead in this ever-changing and complex environment.
And you're the program director of this.
That's correct.
Exactly what we need in government, right?
Yes, thank you.
Exactly. So tell us again your plan for becoming a legislator here in Erie County.
Well, essentially, as I've examined the current circumstances with the legislator that's presently serving in District 5, I've examined voting records, I've examined a lot of different dimensions of leadership. And I guess one of the things that ties most directly with my leadership role, if you will, in my academics, is that I believe we all have the potential to grow, and I believe that we are our own captain of our own continuous learning, growth, and improvement. This means that I have a vision. This means that we teach others how to develop and foster a vision, how to put together a vision and then actualize that, bring it to life, if you will. So with that, I am going to go to one very specific vote that, Legislator Vinyl voted against the program that the Erie County Sheriff was developing a team that would deter major incidents of violence. She voted against this, and it passed despite her negative vote. But one of the things that she stated, and I'm quoting this from a Buffalo News article, she voted against this, saying that she had concerns about the limited expertise and background of detectives joining the unit. And when I hear someone say something like that, in a way that speaks to me of not believing in human potential and not believing that we need to continuously develop our employees, our stakeholders, those that continue to serve. If we serve the way we served 5 years ago, we're assuming people are stuck in what they were 5 years ago and they're in the same place today. If we don't invest in growing the capacity of the service of our human public sector here, we're stuck. We will not advance.
In my opinion, there's a number of bad votes that she's taken continuously. Let's tell the audience what Legislative District 5, where is that essentially?
So Legislative District 5 essentially covers 4 small districts over in Cheektowaga in the area around Genesee Street, going up Transit just a little bit, and then it cuts across, it covers Williamsville, 2/3 of Amherst, and going over as far as the city of Buffalo, and then it goes up north to the Willow Ridge area. Okay,
so Cheektowaga has now made the change to conservative Republican, so that's good for you. Mm-hmm. Amherst, I believe, this year will absolutely make the change. I give a lot of that credit to Bob Davis and to the candidates that he's been able to choose, so that's good for you. City of Buffalo, a little bit more, difficult. But again, if we can convince the people of Cheektowaga and the people of Amherst, then we've got it. We've got it made. And again, you're not a partisan individual. You're brand new to politics. You come from an academic background. So yours is really more focused on what the constituents need, what the constituents want, what should be right for Erie County.
Yes. So if we think about leadership through the context of why does someone step into a role and why are they leading, elected office is public service. And at its most fundamental, we have to be prepared to serve those that voted for us as well as those who don't vote for us. We're serving everyone, and we have to listen to what the community wants and what the community needs.
I listened to my daughter-in-law, who's a county legislator and a person I really have a lot of faith in. She's an excellent county legislator, and you sound much like her. So, her goal isn't to be partisan. Her goal isn't, to be one side or the other. Her goal is to do what's right for the 90,000 constituents that you will be representing. Unfortunately, that is quite different from what the Democrats have done because they've made this sharp turn to the left. But you sound a lot like her in terms of what your goals are. So, I applaud you for that.
She's done a pretty good job, Ralph.
Yeah. Look, Bob, I realize she's working hard, and I realize this academic background is exactly what we want. We want somebody that comes from the private sector that, has had an investment in our community as opposed to a total political life.
Yep, absolutely.
I get politicians continue, and it's not...
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about her opponent, Mrs. Vinyl.
Go ahead.
She's been on the county legislature for 6 years, I believe. And I asked the listeners out there, have you ever heard of her?
And they have.
Have you ever heard of her?
Yeah.
I mean, there are things in Amherst. Christina talked about the sheriff's department. And, every time there's an issue that pertains to public safety and law enforcement, it seems like Vinyl votes against it. And, that's a pretty important issue in our community in Amherst and for the county as well. There's another issue that I've got to bring up, and Christina will probably talk about it. I live around the corner from Maple Road in Amherst, and if you haven't driven Maple Road from North Forest to the university heading west, you have no idea what it's like. I mean, you're lucky you don't lose your tire driving down Maple Road. And our incumbent legislator hasn't done a darn thing about it, except 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden, right on the corner of North Forest and Maple Road, there's this big sign that the county highway put up, says, road work coming to Maple Road September 29th. So I was anticipating, well, guess what? 5 weeks before the election,
right,
they're going to do something.
Right.
Typical Democratic move. And there's been no work done. The sign's been there for 2-3 weeks. They haven't started any work on there. They probably will because it'll be closer to the election. But you know what? Maple Road doesn't need vinyl. It needs asphalt.
Exactly right. Christina, what do you think? That's a great saying.
Yeah, you know what? That is very funny. Touche.
Well, that's a serious problem.
No, you're making me laugh, though, with what you just said. So here's what I can say to you is that in terms of the vote, we have to, the data that we have is what is the voting record of the person against whom I'm running.
That's exactly right.
So essentially, she was the only person on the Erie County Legislature that opposed the CHIPS funding for the New York State 2026 budget. Now, you might say, well, there might have been a reason for that. I'm going to quote you from an article that it's a Buffalo News. I'm sorry, wait a minute. This is WGRZ. I apologize. WGRZ, February 6th, 2025. From their website. Legislator Vinyl emphasized that in her opinion, Erie County's roads are in the best shape they have ever been. Now, so that's not just Amherst, that's in Erie County's roads. So that becomes a question of when I'm out campaigning and I'm in neighborhoods and I'm asking people, what do you feel are the biggest issues that we're facing? I hear things about the condition of the roads. The constituents speak of that. And so this seems to me like it's a vote that she even voted against her own caucus with this. The other thing I'd like to pick up on that you've both mentioned, and this is this whole notion of public safety. When I'm out in neighborhoods, that is a big factor. We have a lot of crime in Amherst, and Amherst previously was known for, being extremely safe, which it no longer is. And people are feeling unsafe in their own...
Car thefts are up amazingly in Amherst.
It used to be the safest city.
Used
Or the safest town.
It used to be the safest town in America.
Exactly.
And her opponent votes against public safety and law enforcement. Ask Sheriff Garcia.
I understand. I mean, to me, one of the most damning things about her is she voted for her own pay raise, and she voted not only for an incremental pay raise, she voted for a pay raise from $42,588 a year for this once-a-week part-time job, that the way she handles it, to $65,000. From $42,500 to $65,000.
And yet nobody knows her, Ralph. What's she been doing? Except for doubling her salary.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that she could vote to do that. So go ahead, Christina. You've got votes that she's taken and votes that are just wrong.
So I agree with what you just mentioned about voting for one's own pay raise. That's an enormous increase. And while a public elected official can vote for that pay raise, none of us are seeing that in our private sector work. None of us are. No one is, realizing those kinds of wage increases. And if anything, with the crushing inflation, any small incremental raises are being eaten up through health insurance and other dimensions of inflation. I guess the security thing is what I find important for us to talk about. A couple of things in particular. There was a plan to beef up security at the Galleria Mall, and despite Legislator Vinal's no vote, this passed. Now, why is this important? It's important because the Galleria Mall is the last mall that we have left standing in our Erie County footprint. This is very important because it provides tax revenue to Erie County through the sales taxes that people pay when they shop at the mall. This is a magnet. People come from surrounding areas. And when individuals feel unsafe in an era where there are options for how we buy things, we have to make the mall as safe as possible so that people will still feel comfortable going to the mall. She voted against this, and it was a budget-neutral proposal because the Galleria Corporation was actually paying for the security.
Well, I know of a number of votes that she's taken that are, in my opinion, totally wrong. But again, a number of them are against police enforcement and against public safety.
Mm-hmm. Another one was her no vote to extend the contract for the deputy sheriffs for their body cams. She voted against extending the contract for our deputy sheriffs to have body cams. And at a time when we need to have solid recruitment of our public safety sector, we have to be able to recruit law enforcement officers at a time when people are not gravitating toward that career.
And in that vote, she was the sole opposition?
That's correct.
So 10 of the 11 legislators voted to do it, and she was the opposition to it.
Yes, that is correct.
Well, there's another issue that's becoming a hot potato in Amherst, Ralph and Christina, and that's the sale of Westwood for $1. And Legislator Vinal has been out there boasting about the fact that Erie County is now going to have a county park in Amherst. But what she doesn't tell you is that the Amherst taxpayers paid $7.8 million for that property just 4 or 5 years ago. And yes, Erie County's going to get it for $1. I take that deal.
Yeah,
I take that deal any day. You got a house for $250,000 house, and somebody wanted to sell it to you for $1. Would you take that deal, Chairman?
absolutely.
No, that's what she did. She sold out the taxpayers of Amherst.
Well, we need a change, Bob. There's no question we need a change, and Christina has the background, the willingness, the experience in terms of her service to make that change. Thank you, Christina. I want to remind everyone that if you want to call in and ask a question of any of our candidates, you certainly can do that. The number here at the Patriot is 716-500-1270. 716-500-1270 if you want to talk to one of our candidates. So continuing on, we now have Christine Zarnick. So Christine is a professional CPA, and she's running for our controller, for Erie County Controller. It's the first time we would have a real professional in that office in quite some time, someone who actually has the credentials to run the office. So, Christine, tell us again a little bit about your background and then what you need to accomplish here in Erie County.
As you said, I am an accountant. It's been my profession of 30 years. I've had my own practice for 25 years, and my client niche is small business owners. So analyzing financial statements, preparing budgets, and working as an advisor to my clients and helping them find ways to run their businesses more efficiently has been what I've done my entire career.
So instead of this office being just a political office that Kevin Hardwick runs, because he's got no background for the actual purpose of the office, you would run the office the way it should be run, as something that oversees the economics of the county.
Absolutely. I want to get the politics out of that office and restore professionalism. What we need is someone who will advocate for the taxpayers. If you take a look at Erie County's spending between 2012 and 2024, which was when Mark Poloncarz went into office, and the same time that Kevin Hardwick was elected to the legislature. So he's either been in the legislature or in the comptroller's office now for about 13, 14 years. But just looking back at the past 12 years, Erie County's spending has gone up 40%.
Wow.
We don't have an increase in population of 40%. We don't have 40% more sheriff's deputies out in our communities. We don't have 40% more infrastructure improvements and repairs happening. But what has grown is spending in administration. And I firmly believe that you have to have the courage to say, we're done with the patronage.
So
it has to end.
More government jobs,
yes,
even though we do not have more population.
Correct.
Well, the thing about the incumbent too, and you both have been talking about it, he's doesn't understand financial management. He's not a certified public accountant. He's a politician. He's a political science professor before he entered the county legislature. And he's a political opportunist. Let's be honest about it. He was a Republican as a legislator.
That's the exact right word.
Then he started to support Mark Poloncarz's issues, and Mark said, "Hey, Kevin, come on over to our side, and we'll make you comptroller." He's a political opportunist, and we got to restore the comptroller's office to the days when we had Nancy Naples, who was a financial analyst, and she did a great job as county comptroller. Kevin Hardwick is nothing more than a lapdog for Mark Poloncarz. I can say it, Christine. You can't. But I'm going to say it, and the voters better understand that. They got a chance to put a professional in that office that will provide checks and balances for the Democratic County Executive and the Democratic County Legislature. And that's a fact.
Yeah, I think we really need someone who has my background to be, as you said, Bob, is restore the checks and balances, but also to be an advisor to the members of the legislature. Okay? They're not getting that right now. If you take just one project, ErieNet, okay, a little bit of research told me that when other municipalities have tried to take on creating their own broadband network, 90% of those projects were financial failures. And Kevin Hardwick should have done that research and should have advised against moving forward with that project. Even now, knowing that cost has already doubled, I expect that we're going to hear that they're going to appropriate more funding in the budget they'll be announcing in a couple weeks. He's not stood up and said, this isn't a good plan. We need to stop this. We need to reevaluate what we're doing.
Christine, tell our audience again a little bit about what ErieNet is. Because this has changed and morphed over a number of years.
Yeah, it's a plan to do trunk lines of broadband, and it was supposed to be done in just a couple years. It's now 6 years down the road. Cost has nearly doubled, but ErieNet itself does not connect anyone to broadband. The plan relies on a private third party coming in and saying, okay, we'll pay you a lease to tap into your trunk, and we'll run the branches out to the businesses and the homes. No company in all of these many years has come forward and said they will do that.
That they want to do it.
They will not do it. And in other municipalities, what they've done is they wait on the sidelines, okay? So the taxpayers pay for the trunk lines. Nobody taps into the branches. Then the municipality pours more money in, does the branches themselves, which is where I think Erie County is right now. And then, since Erie County doesn't want to be in the business of providing broadband internet, they sell the entire thing. And those companies who were smart enough to wait on the sidelines scoop in and pick up the whole thing at a discount because it was funded with taxpayer money.
A substantial discount that the taxpayers paid for.
Correct.
That's just one of the issues. I mean, I see the current controller totally very political in terms of how he handles things. He's wants to be county executive at some point, and so he certainly doesn't fight with the county executive. Right, Bob?
Political opportunist again.
Exactly, a political opportunist. That's his next move. And so he's step in step with Mark Poloncarz on all of these things. We clearly need someone who will do the job that the job was meant for, and you certainly have the background to do it. Tell people what that job really is supposed to be about. What's the controller supposed to be?
Yeah, the most basic functions are, preparing financial statements, doing periodic audits. But the main purpose of the comptroller's office is to be the taxpayer's watchdog, okay? To root out the fraud, waste, and abuse that we know exists in every government, and to act on the taxpayer's behalf. Make those, raise the red flags when they need to be raised, and be a true advisor. And you've got to have the right background if you're going to advise someone, but be an advisor to the legislature. Give them the information that they need to make better decisions.
That's what needs to be done, and it's not being done now, so that's where we're headed, hopefully.
We need a professional in the controller's office, not a politician.
Yeah, I'm really anxious to get in there. I've got some initiatives that I've outlined for doing prompt payments. Make sure that all of our vendors are paid within 30 days once we have a good and verified invoice. Right now, there are some vendors that will not do business with Erie County because of the delayed payments. And that particularly affects small businesses because their cash flow is very tight. And I would love to see more of our business go to smaller local companies, but they have to be able to rely on getting a prompt payment.
I got a question for Christine, and it came up in a conversation probably 5-6 weeks ago, Chairman, on your show when we had the sheriff on. We learned about what happened after the correctional officer situation with Governor Hochul, another Democrat, where all of a sudden the prisoners were being held in the Erie County Holding Center for a lot more than normal, where they used to maybe, after they were sentenced, go to the state facility, but they're being held in Erie County at, a couple $100 a day? And where's the comptroller been telling the taxpayers of Erie County that we're getting ripped off because of New York State and Kathy Hochul? Your comments.
Right, and I think that's another aspect of the job is if there is a problem between the county and the state,
we don't hear about it.
But who better to advocate to try to remove those roadblocks and get things where they need to be. Because if we need to get those prisoners transferred and it's not happening, and you're just sitting here looking at the problem but doing nothing about it, that is a problem.
So here we're back to the correction officers. So Karam, you're here. I appreciate you being here. Karam Dara, who is going to be a candidate for Attorney General next year. So our Attorney General allowed the firing of over 2,000 correction officers and took away their health insurance. And when that happened, they do not have enough people to take care of the prisons. So as Bob Davis just mentioned, the local prisons, the county prisons, are stuck with these state prisoners that should be going. This is a problem with the Attorney General's office and the state, right, Karan?
This is a huge problem, and you see it across the board in the state where, the folks in these offices, they engage in these pet projects. They have all these different, some of them quite wacky ideas. With the Office of Attorney General, lawfare has been Tish James's calling card, and they do all of that while failing to do the basic functions of the job. And I'm noticing a theme here. The candidates that we put up for these offices, we have folks that are very well credentialed, who are professionals. Yes, these are political offices, but they're not meant to be, in many cases, partisan offices. And I think there's a connection between folks trying to make the office into something it's not and failing to do the basics, and the fact that we have these partisans. Because what ends up happening is when you have an office, whether it's the Comptroller's office, whether it's the Office of Attorney General, when you have an office that starts to focus on other issues and fails to do the basic functions, you actually start attracting a different type of candidate to that office. You attract people that are political opportunists. You attract people that are trying to make policy or reimagine the office in their own image. And this is a very serious problem. With the Office of Attorney General, you have to enforce the law.
But she has taken this other position to the extreme. I mean, she's run on politics. Isn't that true?
I've never, I really searched and dug around. I can't find a single candidate for Attorney General or District Attorney who has ever run a campaign saying, before I even look at any evidence, I'm going to find something to put on this person. Any good lawyer would never do that, because they know that just by saying that, even if you get the outcome you want, you're putting the entire thing in jeopardy. And that's exactly what's happened.
You've tainted the whole process.
Exactly what's happened. And so I think on that basis alone, Tish James disqualifies herself for this office. She should be voted out on that alone, putting aside the fact that she's done so many things that have cost taxpayers, that have cost the state, and while failing to do her basic job duties.
Yeah. So that's on the state level. Here we are on the county level, and we have the same type of problem with an opportunist who's in that office, and we've got to make a change. Right, Christine?
Absolutely. You see what has happened over the past 12, 13 years that he's been in office. Do you want that to continue? Or do you want to see really positive changes? Do you want someone who will look out for you and actively find ways to save you money?
I believe on November 4th, people are going to come to the realization and they're going to elect you. Thank you for being here. We're now going to continue with bringing you candidates in local races, but I first want to introduce you to our conservative town chairman in the town of Aurora. So Pastor Chad Kyler is our conservative chairman. He's done an excellent job in the town of Aurora. He's just a great individual who is a man of faith, a believer, who understands that faith, family, country are the important things in life. And he's here to introduce a candidate who is a registered conservative, who is running for council in the town of Aurora. So, Chad, tell us a little bit about Scott.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Scott is a member of our committee. He's been on the committee for a little bit over a year now, I believe. Scott is, as you said, a registered conservative. He is a local businessman with his wife. They own some retail establishments around town. He's also the vice president of a 501c3 called Totally Buffalo Cares that he and his wife also operate. And in addition to being an entertainer, he has a music career, and he's got 25 years of human resources experience in the corporate world locally with a trucking company that has, I believe, over 100 employees and does international business and all kinds of things like that. So Scott is a dyed-in-the-wool conservative, and we're thrilled to have him on our team and running for town board this year.
So again, another business person, first time getting involved in politics, exactly what our founders expected.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Scott, let's. We do have a question. We do have a caller, but I want you to introduce yourself a little bit and just tell us a little bit about your background. Then we'll take Sue from Tonawanda.
Sure. My name is Scott Celani, Celani, proudly running as the endorsed conservative and Republican candidate for the town of Aurora's town board. And yes, my first foray into local politics. I'm very passionate about it. And I'm born and raised in Buffalo. I grew up in Orchard Park. My wife and my girls, we've been in East Aurora for 10 years now, and we live in the town. And we love it. And I want to be involved, and I want to restore some balance to the board. Registered Republicans and conservatives outnumber registered Democrats in the town of Aurora, and we have no council members. We have Chuck Snyder, the supervisor, who's running unopposed, and the rest of the board is all Democrats. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, and we have to get out there and restore some balance and get involved again.
All right, so we have a question from Sue. So, Sue, go ahead. What's your question? Okay. All right. We lost Sue. All right. So, Scott, let's continue. What do you see? So, the town board is 4 Democrats on the town board in the town of Aurora, even though the makeup of Aurora is Republican conservative, correct?
Yeah, we outnumber them. Yeah.
So, we haven't been picking good candidates, obviously, and you are a stellar candidate. I certainly know your history and know your background. Why did you get involved? What brought you to this?
Well, you know what? I have been a political junkie my whole adult life, and more so in recent years. And I never served in the military. I don't regret that because I don't like being told what to do. And if you don't like being told what to do, the military is not for you. But my father was in the military. My grandfather was in World War II. And my regret is not serving. And this is my way of serving. I really want to. I feel an obligation. I feel a civic obligation, and to my country and to my town. And
so this is public service for you.
Yeah, that's 100%. And my girls are 10 and 13. And we're knee deep in the town and in the school system and everything, and I want to do whatever I can to make our town, to restore conservative values to our town.
So, is there any specific issues in the town of Aurora that need to be addressed that you want to look at?
Well, taxes we need to really keep a big eye on taxes. One of my opponents has been on the school board for a dozen years, never met a tax increase she didn't like, and that'd be coming right over to the town board. It's the last thing we need right now. I mean, especially, in these days when every dollar matters, and it's really important to keep taxes as low as possible. They say they want to keep it above, below the 2%, no more than 2% a year. I don't even see why we should even do that. But and we also we need transparency, and we need to be focused on safety, and have a voice, which we don't have right now.
We have an issue actually right now that if Scott was on the board, he'd be super helpful with. We have an opportunity for consolidation of dog control services with the town of Sardinia and Holland. Holland, Jeff Hack is one of our guys. He's a conservative, and he's the supervisor. And if the numbers are what has been presented by the highway superintendent in the town of Aurora, this would be a net savings to us from the profit of $10,000 to $13,000, and that's a conservative estimate, which is almost half what we pay in dog licensing fees. We have over 3,000 dogs in Aurora, and that would cut our taxpayers' fees in half. If Scott was on the board, he'd be a big help with that.
So here again, Chad, so we're talking about consolidation and cooperation.
Absolutely.
Cooperation among towns to reduce the burden of the taxpayers in those towns.
Absolutely. And that should be the councilman's first responsibility, taking everything into consideration.
And that's something, Scott, I presume if you were on the board, you'd be voting in favor of that type of cooperation and consolidation.
Absolutely. There's way too, as we all know, I mean, we're all coming from the same position here. We have just way too much government in this state, in this county. I mean, the more we consolidate, the better.
Yeah.
All right, that's exactly what we need to look at, what we need to accomplish. I appreciate, if you have anything else that you feel is important in the town of Aurora, I'm happy to hear that. We also have Jay Macaluso from Elma. We're going to hear what happens in a Republican town as opposed to Aurora, which unfortunately should be a Republican town, but has flipped over to become a Democratic town. So, Jay, give us a little bit about your background. Now, you are the seated councilman in the town of Aurora.
I am. I'm actually the only conservative on the board right now.
You're a registered conservative.
I'm registered conservative, yep. One of the only conservative on the board, and we have 4 Republicans that we all work together. Elma's a great little town. I got to tell you, I really enjoy being a part of the board. My family's been there for over 100 years. My grandma was born in 1914 in Seneca Street in Elma. I grew up my whole life, went to Iroquois, and being a businessman, I think that we need to get more people on the board to look at through a business point of view and not a government point of view, because there's so much,
So you got on the board 4 years ago.
Correct.
A registered conservative. I certainly appreciate that. And you've served for 4 years. Elma is one of those stronger towns. It's a strong Republican town. Good government in Elma for the most part, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's probably the first, since I've been on the board the last 4 years, we've actually had a board that's gotten along and kind of increased awareness of residents of what we're doing and things like that. And it's right now we're in a good position. I'm running right now against 2 Republicans, and I did get the number 1 votes for the primary, and I'm hoping I can keep moving forward.
So there's an interesting situation there in the town of Elma. So you were endorsed by the Elma Republican Committee, correct?
Correct.
And actually you were endorsed with the highest vote in that Elma Republican Committee.
Yes, I'm very lucky that the residents supported me, yeah.
And then the second person to be endorsed also was a seated councilman, correct?
Correct.
And his name?
Is Tracy Petrosi.
And so Tracy was endorsed, but unfortunately lost that endorsement by how many votes? A handful.
3 votes.
3 votes. So someone who pushed from the outside, someone who had been there before but left, is now got the Republican endorsement, but Tracy does have the conservative endorsement. You have both the conservative and the Republican endorsement. Isn't that true?
I'm very lucky to have both, yes.
Okay, so we want to keep the town going the way it has been for a long time. I expect you will get the highest vote in that town. I expect Elma will continue to be a conservative Republican town with good, strong conservative values. But, Jay, tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, I want people to know. I certainly have known you for quite a while. I know you're the good business guy, and certainly to me, that helps being a councilman, just like Scott. I mean, being a business person, having, run a business, having signed both the front and the back of a paycheck is an important aspect, right?
100%. I mean, when I went into the first year, it's very tough to get things done in government. There's a different process and things like that. It's very tough. I work for the residents of Elma, and I watch every dollar. I mean, other people may say it's only $1,000 here. To me, it's every dollar. And having a biz background, I think, has helped. And I surely have gotten some disagreements, but all in all, the board has actually got along and moved forward. But I think it's huge having a businessman on the board because you've been in struggles when you're making a lot of money, and sometimes you're tight. So I think that background makes you watch.
As opposed to thinking that because we can just tax people, we've got everything. So, Scott, tell us a little bit about your business background.
Well, I have part of my background is I'm head of HR and recruiting for a local Buffalo-based transportation company, heavy duty trucking, and we have offices between here and Chicago, and I've been head of HR and recruiting for them. And it is small business is. It teaches you so much and like you said, it you have to watch every dollar. And I would bring that to the board, just like you said, that every dollar that gets spent, the question is, okay, why are we doing this? And it doesn't mean you shouldn't spend it, but everything should be questioned. And how is this good for the people of the town? And that has to, the same way when you come from your business, how is this good for the business? How is this good for our employees? What makes the most sense? That has to be, that thinking has to be brought to government as well, because I think people who are in government for too long forget that it's not their money. It's not their money. It's the people's money. And we're just, they're kind enough to give it to us, but we don't have a right to it. That's how I see it.
So it seems to me that a lot of these towns, a lot of political people just see what they spent last year and they just add on. They don't do an analysis every single year of what we are spending that is worthwhile, what we are spending that we may be able to save in some way. They don't generally do that, unfortunately, unless they come from the business side of things like both of you.
Line by line budgeting, right?
Line by line budgeting.
Now, can I just say, Jay, you guys just passed an excellent thing, something Scott has talked about as well, with your tax break for first responders. Can you mention anything about that?
I can. Right before I get on that, shared services, we do the same thing. Our dog warden now is with Wales. Okay, so it helps a lot. We do some other shared services now with EMR AMR and things like that. So I agree. If you can save money, $1,000 here, $5,000 here, it does add up. I did actually. I'm a huge promoter of volunteer firemen. Okay, or firefighters. The men and women of Elma are amazing. We have four volunteer fire companies that do a great job, but we're actually just low on numbers. Mm-hmm. And we've got to do something to give incentives for younger people in Elma to be a part of it. As I get older, it's concerning because if I have a heart attack, there's less and less people to pick me up and things like that. So, yeah, we just actually we just approved the local law firefighters exemption. It gives an option. 1 or 2 is option 1. You can pick a discount. I think it's $200 off your income tax, or the other one is 10% off your property taxes.
All right. So, look, 2 conservatives, both running, one in the town of Aurora, one in the town of Elma. Thank you.